Hello, I'm Charles Wilson here at historical Billie Creek Village, and we are here to interview today some people about the heritage. Interview some people and ask them about the heritage of Billie Creek Village and if they have any connections and how proud they are of this village being in their town. What is your name?
My name is Jean Harris.
Thank you. How long have you been working at Billie Creek Village?
About 7 years.
7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how old Billie Creek Village is?
I think about 10 or 11 years old when it was first opened here. And when they first opened, they had only just 2 or 3 buildings and no charge for admission. Now we've added the buildings, and every year we try to add some new craft. And this year, the newest craft is the baking of bread and the rail splitting. And each of our crafts we go on year after year. We're open from Memorial Day weekend through the Covered Bridge Festival on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday afternoons from 12 to 5.
Thank you.
Each month we have some kind of a special thing going on.
Why do you think that Billie Creek Village is such an important part of our heritage?
It was set up originally as a historical place especially for school children. And we've tried to carry the tradition on to show them the way people used to live years ago, the way things were done without the modern machinery and the electricity and things that they have in this day and age.
This is Mr. Stan Sandusky and Mr. Sandusky. God. How do you like Billie Creek Village?
Oh, it's all right. I like the farmhouse and the log splitting and livery barn over there and everything in it. Store, schoolhouse. That's my favorite. Schoolhouse.
Schoolhouse.
Yeah, I just love going to school.
My uncle, he used to be the manager of this village. He helped rebuild the general store. He built a building which is behind it. I do not know what shop it is right now. He used to have a coppersmith shop in the Country Easel, it's called now. It's a yellow building over there. I really like historical things in Billie Creek, especially the general store, and especially during steam harvest days when they have the steam tractors out. Old things, antiques, stuff like that. There are people around here who I know. Mrs. Rosan, who runs a candle shop. This is Mrs. Shirley Rosan and her son Danny Rosan. Here at Billie Creek, they make candles for the village. How long have you been making candles?
About a year. I have been with the village about 3 years.
How did you come by the art of making candles?
A friend of mine, I bought her business, and she was taught by a government agency about 15 years ago. And then she taught me before she died.
Oh, would you mind showing us how you make your candles?
No. You start with a wick on a frame, and you dip it 35 to 40 times in 170-degree wax until it's this size right here. And then you cut it off at the frame and continue dipping. You let it cool between each dipping. And when it's this size, you dip it in the color that you need. They have to cool just a few minutes between each dipping.
Yes, that was very interesting. Would you mind telling us how you came by making this candle?
Yes. Excuse me. You use masking tape and mask it or put it around like this, and then you dip it and peel off the masking tape.
Thank you for telling us how you make that. Danny, would you mind, do you know how to make candles?
Yes.
Who taught you?
My mom.
Do you like making them?
Yeah.
Is it interesting?
Sometimes it is.
What's your favorite part of making candles?
I like it to pour them the most and dip them.
Oh, thank you. What do you like about Billie Creek Village?
It's different. That's the only thing I like about it.
What is your favorite building or craft around here?
The pottery shop.
Thank you, Danny. And thank you, Mrs. Rosan.
Thank you.
This is Mrs.
Owens, Pat Owens.
Thank you, and this is
Todd Curtis.
thank you. Mrs. Owens here makes some bread in the village bakery. How did you come by of the art of making bread?
My mother always made bread. I've grown up with watching it being made in the house ever since I can remember.
Would you mind showing us how you make the bread at a time?
I wouldn't mind at all. We need some hot water time. This is one of the simpler recipes because it doesn't call for any eggs or any milk. We need 2 cups of cold water to make it right for the yeast to rise. If the water's too hot, it'll kill the yeast, and if it's too cold, it won't make the yeast work. I use a cup of sugar. The recipe, did you already put 1 cold in? Yeah. That's all I need. The recipe can be used with honey also,
Yes.
and the yeast. Now, my mother always let the yeast set. She did not mix it with a fork like you see many people do because she said it would kill the yeast.
How long have you been at Billie Creek Village?
This is the first time that I've baked bread at Billie Creek Village. This is my first experience down here.
Mm-hmm. Do you use this wood-burning stove for
Yes, I
cooking?
do. As a matter of fact, there are rolls in the oven now that may be ready. Calls for a handful of salt. If you like a lot of salt, you play like you have a big hand. If you don't like so much.
Oh, they didn't use measuring cups then,
Didn't use
they?
measuring cups. And all the recipes that I have always say, put enough flour in till you have a nice dough. If you've never seen anyone bake bread, you don't know what a nice dough is.
No,
I need some more flour, Todd. I would say it takes about 10 cups to this recipe.
that's a lot.
This makes 5 loaves of bread or 4 dozen rolls.
Wow. It's stirred up here.
Get it stirred up, get some more flour in here so we can work it around. Too much flour makes it a tough dough. If you put, always have less flour than too much if you're concerned about how much it takes. Have it too sticky, it's too dry. You'll have a much better bread.
Yes, I've had sticky bread or thick bread before.
This is my first experience with a wood stove.
Oh.
What do you think of it?
I like it. The gauge on the front of the oven fortunately works.
Oh.
And
Does it take longer?
I don't think it takes any longer, but I think that it browns more on the top than it does on the bottom. We're used to them being more evenly browned.
Todd, have you ever made any bread before?
No,
Do you think someday you might try it?
I don't think so.
Oh.
Why not?
Well, because, see, I think it's women's work.
Yes.
There isn't a child in our house who hasn't played with the dough. It's a nice pacifier.
Yes, usually I'll eat all the dough before my mother gets to make a cake or anything out of it.
Just work it around until it's kind of elastic feeling. Not real sticky, but so it's workable.
Yeah. To where it's easily worked without it sticking to your
Right.
hands.
Oops.
No, that's okay. I've
That
made.
would be a nice. And then I grease the bowl because the top of the bread should be greased so it will not get hard as it rises in the heat.
So while it's in this bowl, the bread will rise.
Yes.
Will it be in the shape of this bowl, or will you? Oh.
And then when it gets to the top, you cover that and let it rise. When it gets to the top, you push it down, and then you make it in whatever shape you want it. Bread or rolls.
Okay, that is
Want
very.
a sample one?
Okay.
Okay.
Mmm. Hot.
Very hot.
Mmm. They're delicious. These are cinnamon rolls, or?
Yes.
These are delicious. Well, thank you for showing us how you make bread.
You're welcome.
Sir, what are you doing?
Well, I'm bottling up this maple syrup that Lowell Smith's just taken off the evaporator.
Oh, what do I do now?
This is the finished product, all
Maple
ready
syrup.
for biscuits and pancakes.
Oh.
So what does it take to get that syrup?
Well,
It takes several hours of boiling.
if you
It
all go
takes
through the
about,
evaporator, well, I'll go through it with you. Let's tip that over, put this under here.
okay.
That's going to be that hot or not. Now, you want to watch it, don't tip over with you.
Okay.
Okay, you want to come up here? We'll
Sure.
go through the process. As the sugar water comes in that back pan, we have the float that keeps the water level. It starts through the evaporator. As it boils, it gets, of course, sweeter and hotter and moves this away. And this is what they call the siphon type evaporator that was used back in the early 1900s. It keeps the water level coming this way and the pan's full. When it gets down here, this front pan, it's getting pretty sweet, and we boil it on down. And when it gets about ready to come off, we use this hydrometer. And that is the density of the syrup. When it tests 32 specific gravity, why, tip the pan, take it off, and strain it through the felt cloth, and then can it while it's hot.
Oh.
So it's just a process of evaporation is what sugar making is.
How long does it take to make this?
Well, when we have plenty of water and we far heavy, we can take off about 2 gallons an hour on this little evaporator. In other words, it takes about 45 to 55 gallons of water to make a gallon of molasses. As it does evaporate, why, it gets sweeter and makes the syrup. And of course, a good rule of thumb on how much a sugar tree makes a season, they always say every tree you tap, you can figure on a quart of syrup from it. Well, of course, that's quite a bit of water when you figure that it boils down that much. Of course, now this little camp here is just kind of a shoal. We only have 125 buckets out. But like I say, so if you have 100 trees, why, you might get 25 gallons of syrup if you have a good year. We tapped the trees about 2 weeks ago. Mother Nature is an important part of sugar making. You've got to have freezing and thawing. We had too hot a weather to start with. We did get the first run, pretty good run, but now they quit running because it's too warm. We get a freeze around 28 to 30 degrees of a night, and then warms up about 40, 45 in the daytime. It'll start running again, just like it's supposed to. But you just can't fool Mother Nature. She's got to go along with us. It does take some wood. That's the cheapest thing we can use anymore. A lot of them use oil, which is a lot handier, but it is a little more expensive. Wood is plentiful, but it is labor getting it in here.
How often you have to stoke it?
Oh, about every half hour.
How long will this go on cooking this? How long will this last?
Well, it's going to have to freeze again. If it don't freeze, it's over.
It is?
Yeah.
If you stoke it too much, it's like the wife burning the candy. You're in trouble.
Yeah.
And if you don't stoke it enough, then it takes you too long to get done. But here we're going to stay till the people go home and we're going to finish.
How often do you drain this pan?
On the average, working here during the Maple Festival, I would say twice a day. We could run it as fast as between 2 and 3 hours and get a batch off, but we're doing this the old-fashioned way, and just to explain what people used to do to the people who come through the village.
Is this syrup machine, whatever you call it?
It's
Is
an
it
evaporator furnace, wood-powered evaporator furnace, yeah.
Is this an antique? Is this an original
Yes,
one?
but these pans are, I'd say they're near 60, 70 years old. And they're still, in other words, your old siphon type evaporator isn't used anymore. It's all gravity flow. So it is more of that 1910 era that we're talking about. But they're still good pans, and they still hold water.
How long have you been making maple syrup?
Well, here at the village, of course, I've kind of hooked on making it here. I've been here, I guess, 12, 15 years, but I've made, we used to have a camp up home, and I've made syrup actually ever since I was big enough to be in the camp, probably 50 years. I'm not going to tell you how old I am. See. I'm not going to tell them my age, but they can figure that. I remember, of course, going down and riding the horse, and we used to haul in with horses, of course, and sled. We'd take out and go on the route and haul it in. But it was always a job, like you had a big run, you always had to boil that water down that same day. That's the secret of good syrup, get boiled down. So they'd boil a lot of times at midnight. I know we'd go down and they'd still be boiling. My dad would. So they really went in for it back in those days, and you still have to do that. These commercial boys that really go in for the syrup, they have as many as 15 to 2,000 buckets. Of course, the more buckets you have, the more syrup you're going to make.
And what's your name?
Andy Foxworthy. Right.
You're Archie's oldest son?
Right.
Yeah. So you've been working with the sugar bush as long as Archie had?
Yes, I have.
What do you like about it?
Oh, I like getting out in the woods and getting the water.
Yeah?
I do that, and he does the boiling.
So can you tell us a little bit about the work, and when did you start chopping the wood and cleaning up the buckets and hanging the buckets and that?
Oh, we cut wood most all summer long whenever we get a chance. It takes got a year-round operation, and we started getting the buckets out, cleaning them up around the 1st of February. We got the camp all open, and it looks like it's going to be a short season due to the weather we're having.
When did you start tapping the streets?
Around the 1st of February. About 2 weeks ago, it really started running the best. But it's about quit now.
Yeah. Think we're going to have any more cold weather? Get it running again?
Well, I hope so. It don't look very good, though. The weatherman's not very hopeful on it.
So how often you go out when it's running real good? How often you go out with the tractor and the tank?
Well, we go out every day. We can cover about half of our buckets a day. And then the second day we wind them up, and then we're ready to start over again the next day.
What about the cleanup? What's involved in that after you got everything boiled down?
Well, we go out and gather in all the buckets and wash them out and stack them, put them away for another year, and clean the tanks up and the furnace, clean it all up and everything, and that's about all there is to it till we're ready to start again the next year.
You store the buckets inside the house here?
We've got a covered truck bed out there we keep the buckets in.
Yeah.
You can walk outside and you can hear a little bird twitter. Then you can hear another one chirp. You look at the cloud in the sky and you say to yourself, say, not going to be long. We're going to be making maple syrup.